why do different parts of society have such different understandings about reality? Let's take the election, for example. Half the country thinks that if Donald Trump gets elected, our democracy is over. The other half of the country thinks that if Donald Trump doesn't get elected, then our democracy is over.
Mhm.
How do you have such polar opposites?
That falls into the realm of opinion. That is legitimate opinion because we can't foretell the future. The conspiracy theory related to elections is that Biden stole the election from Trump, right? Which is completely idiotic, but there are an unbelievable, millions and millions of people who do believe that. And if I could answer your question as briefly as possible, I would say the internet. The internet is the reason that we're more conspiratorial now than we were 50 years ago, because prior to the internet, we were not so connected. And so these wacky ideas couldn't really gain traction, right? You might tell them to your buddy at the bar or something, but nowadays, if you can come up with something ridiculous, whether it's in earnest or you're just a grifter, and honestly, the majority of them are grifters trying to build an internet presence, it's very easy to find an audience. And then that audience can be amplified by various means with social media. So that is the reason. That and the inherent credulity of a certain sector of the human population. But that would be my answer, I think.
Why do people believe, for example, that the Earth is flat? I mean, you have famously debunked flat earthers.
Mm-hmm.
You, I think more than anyone else, know the compelling scientific arguments about how we know the Earth is round, which is really shocking that we even have to make that argument, centuries after we discovered it. So, like, using that as an example and maybe as a motif or a symbol for other conspiracy theories that are proliferating today. Like, why do the people you've spoken to, why do you think people think that the Earth is flat? What's driving that belief?
Well, the people I've spoken to are frauds. They're grifting frauds who lie on the internet to make money. The people who fall for it, which is the reason there's money to be made, speaking about flat Earth uniquely, that being the absolute bottom of the barrel, the most ridiculous thing anybody can believe, the most demonstrably untrue thing, the thing that violates literally the entire body of scientific knowledge going back 2,500 years. The reason people fall for that is a combination of intense delusional narcissism and extreme cognitive deficit. So it's basically the dumbest people alive believing that they're the smartest people alive, which is surprisingly easy for them to do. They want to have this special knowledge. They want to be Neo in the Matrix. They want to be, the government isn't going to trick me. I'm the smart one and I'm going to break free and I'm going to blah, blah, blah. When in reality, they don't understand things that like 6-year-olds understand. So that's the answer for flat Earth. As you go up the ladder to things that are decreasingly insane, I think that is still the correct answer, just to slightly lesser degrees. People that fall for anti-vax and stuff. There's a host of bad faith actors in the medical realm that promote all this misinformation to varying degrees of believability. And people who fall for that also have something kind of like what I just explained, where they're like, the pharma's not going to get me. I'm the smart one, like that kind of thing.
So is half the country deluded, wanting to vote for Trump?
I think so. I mean, and this is, I'm not a Democrat either. I'm just saying that I feel like anyone who is a Trump voter is a sucker. I'm sorry. Like, the guy makes a mockery of the presidency to enrich himself and fill his pockets. Like, now you can make a whole heap of criticism about the Democratic Party too, and I'll jump on the train with you. So I'm not like, go blue. Like, that's not me. But Trump is like, why would anyone vote for this guy? I don't understand it. Yeah,
I think people who do vote for him say things about immigration, the border, putting up a wall, being more anti-war when it comes to like Ukraine, Russia, for example. They'd say lower taxes. They would say that he would encourage the U.S. to pump more gas, which would help the economy. They'd say so. There's all these things that, whether they're true or not, are seemingly like rational, I think, reasons that, right?
I mean, not really though. He's just capitalizing on xenophobia, right? Build a wall, keep the Mexicans out. All right, he wasted a bunch of taxpayer money building a few miles of this crappy wall. Like, He's just wasting money so that racist people will vote for him. Like that's what
But
it is.
isn't immigration a problem? Like we want immigrants, obviously.
Yeah.
That immigrants are important for this country, but
Yeah.
but there is a way in which immigration can also be very problematic, right? If we wouldn't you agree that there is an immigration problem?
I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know the minutia of immigration, but Trump definitely doesn't, and Trump voters also do not. So it's nonsense.
I think they see like holy. I mean, you're saying minutia, but I don't think it's minutia to say okay, millions of people, whether it's 1 million, 10 million, it's some large number of people are coming to this country undocumented, illegally. Whether the violence or quantities are exaggerated, like it's a
Yeah.
clump. Like so let's say they are. So then, but it's still it's a thing that people don't want to happen. They're saying there are immigrants coming in.
Why don't people want Mexicans to come over here
some
and
of
pick
it's
strawberries for
racism,
$3
but
an hour? Something that nobody in America wants to do, right?
Wouldn't you agree that? So of course we need immigrants in this country, but wouldn't you agree that there's an aspect like isn't there an aspect of illegal immigration that's harmful?
I don't know. I mean, look, as I said, I'm a science communicator. This type of policy, I don't have a lot of knowledge of it, so I'm not going to be able to give like a super duper in-depth perspective. Yeah. All I know is that Trump voters are typically very racist, and he capitalizes on that to get votes. Right.
So, in terms of science, in terms of the COVID vaccine, there was a million conspiracy theories floating around. There was a bunch of things written in some, I'll admit, like Republican sources that stated that there was some amount of cover up from Fauci. Not that he necessarily was trying to create some global virus, but there did seem to be some sketchiness surrounding the event. Do you think any of that's legit or not?
There's like two things. Like number one, at the beginning of the pandemic, he advised people against getting masks because he didn't want people to panic buy masks and then medical professionals wouldn't have access to them. So that was like slightly manipulative. And then once we had a surplus of masks, it was like, okay, get masks, please. So that was one. And then there was like $300,000 allocated to the Wuhan lab for gain of function research, right? It was like $1 million and something that was split up into 5 bits, 5 different virology labs, one of them being the Wuhan virology lab. And it's just like such an unbelievably insignificant amount of money. Like it's not an amount of money that accounts for making a bioweapon or something like that. I'm not like, I don't care about Fauci. I don't care what Fauci says, but like the stuff that anti-vaxxers say about him is ridiculous.
So the lab leak theory, is that legit or no?
So like accidental lab leak is unlikely, but not can't be conclusively ruled out, right? I think that bioweapon, like deliberate manufacture, has been pretty conclusively ruled out just based on the morphology and the genomic qualities of the virus. But lab leak, it's the kind of thing where like we've seen this so many times before, right? Zoonotic origin is how these pandemics happen. Like it's not new. They jump from, in this case, bats to, I think, some other intermediate species. I forget what it was that they say it was. And then to humans. And it's happened many times before. It's not like a weird thing, but we can't go 100%. We're not omniscient, and we can't say that there's no way it came out of the lab,
So coming back to our conspiracy theory conversation, I was saying, why do people believe conspiracy theories? And you said something along the lines of they're all idiots, I think.
No, I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush, right? There's a spectrum here. Yeah. Like, for example, if you think that the JFK assassination, that there was some foul play there, I don't know. I think I might believe that. Like there are governments do bad things, and there are cover ups. Those are things that happen, right? And official narratives are sometimes are lies, right? I mean, it's not that there's no conspiratorial thought that has ever been vindicated in any way, shape, or form. But there's a spectrum of how ridiculous they are. Flat Earth being the most insane and ridiculous. And then some of the thing, accidental lab leak being certainly not insane, just not, it's unsubstantiated, right? There's no evidence for it.
I mean, I would say the same goes for the JFK assassination. We have the Warren Commission report. We have forensic evidence in the form of ballistics and Oswald's rifle. We have eyewitness testimonies. We have Oswald's actions. We have investigations and reviews. And we have a lack of credible evidence for conspiracy. So those 6 pillars are why we don't believe the JFK assassination. So how do you respond? What?
I feel like the Jack Ruby thing is possible. CIA, you know what I mean? There's reason, but look, I'm not an expert in ballistics.
Mhm.
I have no way
Yeah.
to assess the ballistics evidence. It's like you talking about James Tour's arguments for abiogenesis. You don't have an understanding of this material, of this research. So it's going to be hard to assess who, right? When I talk about it versus when he talks about it, we're both kind of going over your head. With JFK stuff, I don't know the first thing about guns. I don't know if the gun came
Yeah.
from but it's just, I heard some stuff, and, Jack Ruby, like the mob, kind of, securing, meddling with elections in, I think, Chicago or somewhere else, and like basically getting him extra votes illegally. And then they got mad at him because I forget what he did. He did something else. I don't know what he had sex with Jack Ruby's wife or something. I don't know. Just whatever. Like, that's not crazy that somebody else that killed JFK than the official narrative.
Because I think I'm a big I totally agree with you that it's a problem that people believe in conspiracy theories, and we shouldn't. And I think there's a lot of logical fallacies and emotional fallacies and intellectual fallacies that are going on when someone believes in that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But and you feel that way at least as much as I do. But then we talked about the lab leak theory and how that could be possible. And then you're mentioning you're wondering about JFK. Was he actually assassinated? My issue with Jack Ruby, the Jack Ruby theory, is there's like three things I have a problem with. One is the investigations themselves. So they did do investigations, the Warren Commission and the House Select Committee. They didn't find any substantial evidence linking Ruby to larger conspiracy. His motives, there was no direct organized crime links, right? There was his conviction was overturned due to trial errors, I guess, but there's no new evidence of conspiracy. And there was no corroborative evidence. So because of all those reasons, that's why we don't collectively think that Jack Ruby killed JFK.
Sure.
So we can believe in flat Earth too. I mean,
I don't have a super strong opinion about it.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's how some people would feel about flat Earth. They say there's evidence against it, but I don't buy it.
Okay, but that's insane, because you can prove to yourself that the Earth is a sphere by looking in the sky and thinking basic logic.
Yeah.
So it's not the same.
Yeah. And right. I don't think it's the same. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to be really critical of people that believe in conspiracy theories, I think you should be really critical of conspiracy theories in general.
Yeah, like I said, I don't paint with a broad brush, right? There's ones that I'm more sympathetic to, even ones I don't believe, where I'm like, okay, well, I can't prove that that's wrong. I can very easily prove that the Earth isn't flat, and I've done so 100 different ways.
Yeah.
I can't prove that who killed JFK, right? I can't do that.
Yeah. And then back to the Fauci thing. So we had a government press release that showed that, I guess, Dr. David Morans, who worked with Fauci, violated official NIH policies and potentially broke federal law. This is something published in the Oversight Committee, which is Republican. So maybe it's biased or something. But they publicly acknowledged that the lab leak hypothesis was possible, and so there seemed to be some amount of cover up. Again, it doesn't mean that anyone tried to infect the population.
That's just what I said, right? We can't 100% rule it out. They're just speaking honestly, right? Like how scientists do, right?
Right. So. Well, you're saying, but what about the idea that there was also a press release that EcoHealth Alliance used U.S. taxpayer dollars to facilitate gain of function research on coronavirus? I think you mentioned that there was like a small amount of money. You're saying
it was like $300K. It was like 1 point something million that was split up into 5 chunks and distributed around different virology labs. Right? It's just scientific research, right? That's all it is.
Got it. Well, Dave, those are all my questions for today. I also wanted to keep this short, and I know you're not feeling the best.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for your time for this short interview.
Yeah, for sure.